Perhaps no shoe in the last year has got more hype for being what other shoes should strive for than the ASICS SuperBlast. So you guessed it, that's today's review. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, this video is in partnership with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Roadrunner Sports was good enough to send me the SuperBlast for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you can pick up a pair of the ASICS SuperBlast for $200. And remember, when it was released, this was $220. So $200, that's a pretty good deal. Or at least $200 for a pair of running shoes is expensive. I totally get it. But I think relatively speaking, you're getting a lot with the SuperBlast. Now, the ASICS SuperBlast is a super trainer. And I think there are several things that make a super trainer, like super stack height, maybe a plate, maybe a super foam. Well, the ASICS SuperBlast has two of the three. We have the super foam, we have the super stack height, we don't have a plate. And I'll just come right out and tell you the plate's not needed. But let's go back to that stack. The SuperBlast has 45.5 millimeters in heel, 37.5 in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. Now, ASICS claims that a US men's size 9 would tip the scale at 8.8 ounces or 250 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 13, it tips the scale at 10.4 ounces or 294 grams. So guys, sub 300 grams for my size, it feels really light on my foot. So let's start off with the build quality, then we're going to get into what it feels like on the run, and then I'll give you my thoughts on where I think this fits in your lineup. So we'll start off with this heel collar, and look at this. Guys, we got a lot of padding around this heel collar. I mean, this is a light shoe, and ASICS has managed to squeeze a lot of padding in. It's almost daily trainer-esque. Hold on to that thought. But it's got a super comfortable step-in feel. It feels really soft and plush around this heel collar. The heel counter is very rigid. Again, maybe something like we would expect in a daily trainer. And then I think that's where the similarities to a daily trainer kind of end. ASICS is using an asymmetrical engineered mesh. It is very light. It's very breathable. I mean, it's not race day thin, but it's certainly not daily trainer thick. It's right in the middle, which I suppose that's what a super trainer should be. The SuperBlast has minimal overlays. We've got an underlay coming around the toe box just to keep that upper off your toes. Very light branding on the medial and lateral sides. The eyelet chain is reinforced, although very lightly reinforced. They haven't done a big overlay. But again, that's staying right on target of saving weight in the shoe. And then the tongue is super thin, very aerated. In fact, if I hold it up, I might have to overlay something. But the tongue has laser drilled holes all the way up it. It's super breathable. And it is almost race day thin. And then we've just got a little bit of padding on both sides of the tongue and then this logo right on the front. And that's where I tie my laces across. And I didn't have any lace bite. Like, it's minimal padding, but it works. Oh, I don't know if you missed it. We've got a nice heel pull here on the back. Can't say I actually used it. The SuperBlast slides onto my feet nicely. And I did find that this shoe fit true to size. Now, I know if you've seen other reviews, they suggest going down half a size. That wasn't the case for me. My normal size 13 and ASICS shoes work like a charm. Okay, let's come down to the midsole, because this is what makes a super trainer by some definitions. So ASICS is using a dual density setup for the SuperBlast. This top layer is Flight Foam Blast Turbo, which is the same formulation that was in the Metaspeed Sky Plus, not the Metaspeed Sky Paris. They changed the formulation to make it a little softer. You can see the majority of this midsole is that Flight Foam Blast Plus Turbo, and then this white bit on my colorway that's closest to the ground, that's Flight Foam Blast Plus, which is going to be a little softer, a little more resilient, and it's going to keep the life expectancy of the SuperBlast in that acceptable range. Let's just quickly look at the outsole. Got a good amount of coverage of outsole rubber. ASICS is using the AHAR Plus. AHAR is ASICS High Abrasion Rubber, but this is AHAR Plus, so a little grippier. ASICS also says that they're using a trampoline-inspired outsole. I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe that's marketing hype. Maybe it's not, but we'll talk about the ride. Hold on. Let's just talk about my expectations, because that is somewhere that I really needed to check myself. Because this shoe has been out for a while, and I'm hearing everybody saying how much they love it, that it's the benchmark against which all other shoes should be measured, I expected certain characteristics. I expected more on the super end of the super trainer category than the trainer end of the category. And when I first put it on my foot, well, you know, the step-in feel I already said was top notch, but when I first put it on my foot and then went out for a run, I was kind of surprised, maybe a little disappointed how firm this shoe rode. Like, I was expecting something soft. I was expecting it to feel trampoline-esque, thanks to ASICS marketing copy, and it just wasn't there. The shoe rode very firm. But, and I've got to say this big but, not too firm. And you've heard me say this about other shoes in the past. They seem firmer in the beginning than they do even towards the end of one run. And I think the ASICS SuperBlast did take a little bit of time to break in, which is unusual. That isn't usually the case nowadays. But I think it is the case for the SuperBlast. So if you do pick up a pair, I don't want you worried in the first run or two that it's just a little firmer than you expected. Now, I do have to be honest, and it did cross my mind that maybe I was just getting used to it and it wasn't actually loosening up, or becoming softer, I should say, because it's still a firmer ride. I mean, a definite firmer ride than something like the Gel Nimbus, which is super plush. But I did really start to enjoy it after a couple of runs. The next thing, in going back to that trampoline effect, I didn't really feel it. In fact, the ride of the SuperBlast I didn't think was incredibly inspired. But I think that's more of a me problem than a shoe problem, because I expected something fantastic. I expected a super shoe out of a super trainer. So I feel like I've been bagging on the shoe long enough. Let's talk about the good things. Because even though I said that the ride didn't seem inspired, it seemed a little firm, I actually grew to really like it. And I took this shoe out on the easy runs, but I also took it out on a couple of workouts, both intervals and tempo. And I was shocked at how well it performed. Like, I was able to pick up the pace, I was able to turn my feet over, the shoe is fairly light, and the geometry is such that it just flows nicely. What I really liked was the upper and how light it was, while still maintaining the soft, plush cushioning of kind of a daily trainer heel collar. Now, as you know, I live in Florida. At this time of year, it's just brutally hot all the time, so I definitely like the breathability and I like the tongue being totally aerated. That didn't stop me from soaking this shoe through and having to stuff it with newspaper at the end of my run, but it still felt comfortable on the run. And what's more, it felt comfortable at speed and when I was running really easy. And in the beginning, when I first put it on, and I was a little disappointed with how firm it was, I didn't think it would be a good recovery day shoe. But guys, I gotta tell you, I think this shoe is pretty good at all your paces. And there are a lot of race day shoes out there, but you know what? A shoe made for race day is very expensive, especially if you're not going to be using it in training. And here's the best thing that I can say about the ASICS SuperBlast, is that I think that $200 price tag is well deserved. And look guys, the SuperBlast 2 is coming out, it's just around the corner. And when it does, this SuperBlast is probably going to be reduced in price, and that will make it an even better value. So I'm kind of getting away with what I actually wanted to say, but I think the SuperBlast does set a standard for daily trainers everywhere. Maybe not super trainers, but I think this is where the average daily trainer needs to go. I don't know why we're running in these shoes that are so bulky, so heavy, when we can make something much lighter and seemingly stand up to a lot of punishment. I'm not seeing a lot of wear on this outsole rubber, and just do everything. Now look, I know some people live in a colder climate, maybe they want a little more shoe wrapping their foot. That isn't the case for me. I got a feeling it's not a case for you, especially during the summer months. Oh, another surprising thing about the SuperBlast, remember 45.5 in the heel. This thing is max stack. I mean over max stack. And yet it is remarkably stable. I didn't experience one instance in all of my runs in this shoe where I thought I was going to roll the shoe. You know how you can feel that way in a race shoe? And again, that's probably one of the big differences between a race day shoe and a super trainer, is that usually the platform is just a little wider. But I can think of another super trainer, the Prime X2 Strung, that is very unstable. Now, the Prime X2 Strung is remarkably more expensive than the SuperBlast, and it has a couple more millimeters of stack height, but still, the difference between running in this and the Prime X2 Strung is night and day. So, in a nutshell, I think the ASICS SuperBlast is a fantastic shoe. I think if you can get it on sale, it's an absolute buy. At $200, I still think it's a buy. I want you to curb your expectations. I don't want you going into this shoe being like me, thinking it's going to be some magic flying carpet that's just going to feel good and feel propulsive like a race day shoe. It's not that shoe. But if you could have one shoe to do everything, and I mean from recovery runs to race day, I think the ASICS SuperBlast is a legitimate option. So now it's your turn. I want to hear from you. The SuperBlast has been out for a while. Have you run in it? What are your thoughts? Are you thinking of picking one up, or are you going to wait for the SuperBlast 2? Drop a comment and let me know. All right, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the ASICS SuperBlast. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.